Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. What you're looking at here is the bike rack that is built and sold by Tesla for $520 on their shop. I have it. I want to show you what comes in the box, how do you hook it up, how well it works, and if you want to find out what the impact is on your range, stick around to the end. With that, let's just get into it. All right, this is what comes inside the box. You've got the actual bike rack itself, which I have to admit is really stout and heavy. The website says it's 40 pounds. It frankly feels heavier than that. We've also got a number of clip-on straps to hold on the bikes. We have some fabric straps here that are used to maybe secure the wheels to keep them from flapping around. We just got a couple of Allen wrenches, and we've got some key locks, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Now that you've seen what's inside the box, let's go ahead and get this thing installed. And in order to do that, you need a Tesla Model Y or Model X that has a hitch. And I happen to have a hitch on my particular Model Y here. It does say it supports up to 1 1/4 and 2-inch hitch receivers. Not exactly sure what we have here on the Tesla, but it's designed for this unit, so I'm not particularly concerned about it. So before we get too excited, we have to do a little bit of surgery, very little, with this pry tool, and we have to expose the tow hitch on the back of the car. All right, now I flip the tow hitch over, and we want to extend the part that goes into the tongue like that, and now it's just a matter of manhandling it into the back of the receiver. Okay, when you push the hitch in, it will stop here because there is a detent, and we need to go ahead and press this button here and actually get it to lock in on the inside detent, which you can see there, and it did. But you can see it's a little flimsy. And there's an adjustment knob here that we can tighten up the mechanism that should firm it up. There it is, and it's quite stout. Okay, now that this is snug, Tesla supplies a key where you can basically disengage the tightening mechanism so you can't loosen it or tighten it, which is a nice safety feature to prevent the entire rack from being stolen from your car. Now the bike rack has the ability to support up to 4 bikes totaling 120 pounds total. So if you got a lot of lightweight bikes, you're probably going to be fine holding up to 4 bikes on here. But if you've got a heavy e-bike like I do, you may have to restrict it to just 1 bike or maybe 2. Now you'll also notice that on the top here we have a number of receivers that can slide back and forth, which gives you maximum adjustment to being able to put the bike on here. And every other one has a lower adjustment that allows you to basically fit the bike to the rack. So how do bikes actually fit and get secured under the rack? Well, that's our next step, and that's where the straps come into play. All right, I've got my Highboy e-bike here, and that's for another video. But let's go ahead and get these secured with the straps here. And you can also see that I've tried to get this receiver as close to the back arm here of the bike as possible. Okay. Final thing you want to do is you want to use the included nylon strap to basically strap on the front wheel to prevent the wheel from flopping around too much. I'm not really particularly happy with this yet. I'll probably play with it a little bit more, but that's the intent of this particular strap. All right, the last thing that Tesla also recommends is that when you install your bike, that you make sure the lowest part of your bike is no less than 12 inches off the ground. And you can see that I'm about 7 inches, which isn't great, which means that I will likely need to, for this particular e-bike, remove the front wheel for transport. Not ideal, but not a horrible situation because I do have a quick release. However, if I'm taking this to a local park here in town, I'm aware of the roads, I'm aware of I'm going to be going relatively slow. So I think personally, given where I would want to take this locally, I'd be okay with this particular configuration. But if I'm going any distance, I probably want to remove the wheel. And speaking of distance, the next question you might be answering is what does this bike rack do with the range? Well, I'm going to try and figure that out. All right, any discussion of a bike rack in a Tesla cannot be complete without talking about range impact. So I have my e-bike loaded up in the back on the car, and we're going to take it for about a 25 to 30 mile drive to see what kind of impact it has on our efficiency. And I'm going to be doing in-town driving, and I'm going to get out on the highway. So we'll reset the trip, we'll figure out where we're at, and then we're going to do the whole exact same circuit again on the same day without the bike rack installed, and see just how much of an impact the bike rack has with a bike on it to your range. Now let me show you, before we get started, what it looks like in the Tesla. So let me just pull up the back camera, because it's going to become quite obvious. There it is. There's the car, there's the bike, and you can see the rack. So it does cover up some of the rear view mirror. And the next thing that you're going to notice is that when you put the car in reverse, it's going to start yelling at you because it thinks there's something obstructing the back. And in order to get around that, you need to enable trailer mode. So in order to do that, you want to go to the car settings and under dynamics and scroll all the way to the bottom, and there is a trailer mode here, which we will turn on. And the trailer mode says always enable trailer mode. It restricts certain vehicles' functions, like driver assistance features, so I'm not sure if I'll even be able to use autopilot on this drive, but we will try. But now that the trailer mode is turned on, it shouldn't be yelling at us anymore. So let's go ahead and put it in reverse. You see we got the little trailer indicator here. So with that, we have our trip reset called with bike, and we're going to go ahead and head out on our loop, see what kind of efficiencies we get. So we'll check in when we're done. While we're driving, let me talk about the weather conditions. Right now it is 79 degrees Fahrenheit. It is sunny, it is clear, the roads are dry, and the wind is almost zero. So doing a comparison side by side with the bike rack and not the bike rack on what's going to be about a 26-mile loop should be relatively ideal. And if there are any variations due to elevation, or if there is a slight wind, the fact that I'm going to run this loop twice at back-to-back should pretty well have that covered. And I'll also note that I ended up turning off trailer mode because, as I expected, traffic aware cruise control, autopilot, and FSD are all disabled. And I guess I can see that for if you have a real trailer in the back from a safety point of view, but I have nothing dragging on the ground. It's just a bike rack. So I went ahead and turned trailer mode off. Okay, we just completed a 26-mile loop with the bike on the bike rack, and how did we do? So we consumed 8 kilowatt hours, and it says that our average consumption was 288 watt hours per mile. And I can tell you from history, without using a bike rack, that's still pretty darn good for a Model Y. So it'll be really interesting to see if running the same loop in a few minutes without the bike rack installed at all will have any appreciable impact whatsoever. Now, out of those 26 miles, I would say about 2/3 of them were done at highway speed. So we've got a pretty good mix here. So with that, I'm going to take off the bike rack and let's rerun this trip. Okay, we are back from our round trip without the bike rack, and how did the numbers shake out? Well, I have to admit that I am a bit surprised. That last leg was 235 watt hours per mile. Now, if you remember the last run with the bike rack, it was 288. That is almost 23% more energy with a bike and a bike rack. So that's substantial, and that's something that you're going to have to factor in if you are planning on doing any long distances with the bike and a bike rack. And I'm sure depending on the configuration of your bike and how many bikes and how much wind resistance you get from them is going to have variable impact on your trip. So you're going to have to keep that in mind. So that's it. That's the bike rack from Tesla. What are my final thoughts? Well, it is a very well-built bike rack. It is sturdy. It holds bikes pretty darn well. I wish that it provided more nylon straps for the handlebars. It only provided one, but the clamps and clamping mechanisms all seem to work okay. The bike lock itself is a cool concept, but I also wish the cord was a little bit longer. It does seem a little bit short to me and does limit the options that you have as far as routing the cable around frames or around wheels in order to protect that investment. That said, I'm glad it does have a bike lock, and I'm glad that the Hitch also locks. So with that, is it worth $520? Well, that's something you're going to have to decide for yourself. For me, I'm glad that I had the referral points in order to cash those in and get it for free. So with that, I hope you liked this video. If you did, I'd appreciate you tapping that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscriptions are always welcome. Until the next video, we'll catch you later.